All right, accounting students, welcome. In this explainer, we're going to build the case for why understanding the architecture of digital systems is a total game changer for your career. See, it's not just about the numbers anymore. It's about trusting the systems that spit those numbers out. So what's on the docket? Well, we're going to kick things off with the scandals that basically created modern IT audit. Then we'll build this thing from the ground up. Foundations, then applications. We'll look at the blueprints auditors actually use. And, this is key, we're going to tie everything back to the financials. And to wrap it up, we'll peek into the future with the cloud and AI. Okay, so to really get why this matters so much, we have to jump in a time machine. We're going back to some major scandals that literally shook the accounting world to its core. And look, this isn't just some boring history lesson. Nope. This is the origin story of the modern auditor. I mean, when these giants fell, it wasn't just a bad quarter. It was a complete and utter breakdown of trust. And when you dig down to the root cause, what do you find? You find financial reports that were a work of fiction, all made possible because the systems and controls, well, they were either broken or people just flat out ignored them. So, what happened next? The government stepped in with some landmark legislation, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. You'll hear it called SOX for the rest of your career. All of a sudden, executives couldn't just throw up their hands and say, I didn't know. Nope. They were now personally, legally on the hook for the numbers and for the effectiveness of their internal controls, including, for the first time, all their information technology controls. And just like that, the world changed for auditors. The IT audit went from this, nerdy backroom tech check to a core, can't live without it, part of the financial audit. Think about it. You simply couldn't sign off on the financial statements anymore unless you could also sign off on the systems that created them. So what's an IT audit really looking for? Well, it all boils down to three things, what we call the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. They're all super important, but for you as a future financial auditor, one of these is king, and that's integrity. Can you trust the numbers? Have they been messed with? Are they complete? That right there, that's the foundation of everything you'll do. Okay, so how do we actually get that integrity? Well, you can't build a strong house on a shaky foundation, right? Same thing here. In IT, that foundation is called IT General Controls, or ITGCs. These are the big overarching rules for the entire digital house. So, if the ITGCs are the foundation of the building, and maybe the security guard at the front door, we still need to think about what's happening inside. That brings us to the next layer, application controls. These are like the locks on the individual office doors, protecting the really important stuff happening in each specific room. And this really breaks it down nicely. On one hand, you've got those ITGCs that affect everything, basic stuff like who can even get into the server room. But on the other hand, you have application controls, which are super specific. They're built right into the software to stop things like, say, accidentally paying an employee $1 million. Okay, listen up, because this right here is probably the single most important idea for you to grasp. A weak foundation, a bad ITGC, can make your application controls totally worthless. Just look at this chain of failure. It starts with one bad program change, an ITGC failure. That lets someone sneak past a key control in the application itself. What's the result? Corrupted data, which leads directly to a material misstatement. That's the domino effect. Now you might be thinking, how does an auditor even know where to start? Well, they're not just winging it. They use established frameworks. Think of them like the blueprints for a building to guide their entire process. It keeps everyone on the same page. And here are the big three you're going to see everywhere. A simple way to think about them is COBIT helps answer the why. Why are we doing this from a business perspective? ISO 27001 gives you the what specific security controls should be in place, and ITIL gives you the how. How do we manage our day-to-day IT operations effectively? All right, let's tie this all together. We've talked tech, we've talked frameworks, but what does it all mean for you, the financial auditor? This is where the rubber meets the road, connecting the IT world to the world of balance sheets and income statements. So how can something as simple as a bad password policy lead to a multi-million-dollar error? It sounds crazy, but the connection is frighteningly direct. Think about it. A weak password gets stolen. Someone who shouldn't be in the system gets in. And what can they do? They can change bank account details, create fake vendors, cook the books, you name it. Here's the bottom line. Pretty much every single number you will look at as an auditor comes from a computer system. an ERP, a custom app, whatever. And if you can't trust the system that produced that number, well, then you can't trust the number. It's really that simple. Your entire audit relies on the integrity of those underlying IT controls. So when you're on the job, you're going to zero in on these key areas. Is the data any good? Are the right people and only the right people getting in? Are changes to the system being managed properly? And is there good segregation of duties? These are the big ones because they're the controls that directly stop fraud and error right in their tracks. And this is a really important mental shift you have to make. When you find an IT problem, you can't just talk about it in tech jargon. You have to translate it. An IT control failure isn't a tech issue, it's a financial risk. It's a potential misstatement. That's the language the CFO and the board understand. Okay, so we've built this nice, stable structure. But the world doesn't stand still. The architecture of assurance is constantly evolving, thanks to huge technologies like the cloud and AI. The whole skyline is changing, and as auditors, we have to change with it. Now, one of the biggest challenges with the cloud is this idea of shared responsibility. A lot of companies think, great, we moved to AWS, now security is their problem. That is a huge, dangerous mistake. It's not their problem, it's a shared problem. The responsibility is split right down the middle. And this chart breaks it down perfectly. The cloud provider, think Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're responsible for the security of the cloud, the physical data centers, the servers, the network. But the company, the customer, is responsible for security in the cloud, their data, their user access, how they set everything up. And guess where your job as an auditor is? It's focused squarely on what the customer is doing. All right, and what's next? What's the next big thing? It's AI. We're starting to see AI make really complex financial decisions. And that presents auditors with a massive challenge. I mean, how in the world do you audit a decision from a black box that can't even tell you how it made that decision? It means the whole focus of the audit has to shift. You're not just testing simple, predictable rules anymore. Instead, you're asking new questions. Is the data going into this AI any good? Is the algorithm biased? Can we actually explain its decisions? And maybe most important of all, is there a human in the loop keeping an eye on things? Whew. So in just 25 slides, we've covered a ton of ground, haven't we? We went all the way from the birth of SOX right up to the cutting edge of AI. And that leaves us with one last big question, a question that's really going to define your entire career. As AI starts to do more and more of the accounting, is the auditor's real job in the future not auditing the numbers, but auditing the logic of the algorithm itself? Something to think about.